I was going to ask you, what do you think are in the Epstein files? And as we know, Trump once famously said that he could stand on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and nothing would happen to him. His base would still be with him. Do you think that is changing now? What would it take?
Well, this is about pedophilia, and this is about sex trafficking. And so this is beyond the pale now. So I don't think he can survive that.
Well, we don't know that he's actually done that, right? I mean,
I didn't say that he did it.
No, I know you didn't, but I'm just being careful here.
And you have different libel laws than us and stuff, so I'm not accusing him of anything, okay? I have to wait to see what's in it. But I think there's enough people that have seen it, whether it's Nancy Mace or Laura Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene or Tom Massey.
Or Elon Musk, who tweeted out that Trump was in the files.
There's enough people that have seen it that know he's too close to the fire. So I'm not accusing him of anything, but I'll just go off of the words of Thomas Massey. You know, he may not have done anything wrong, but he knew of wrongdoing. A result of which you're too close to the fire. You know, you probably don't remember Joe Paterno, but Joe Paterno was a very famous...
I do. Penn State.
Okay, yeah, okay. So he was a very famous high-profile coach at Penn State. Jerry Sandusky was abusing people, and he was a child abuser. He's maybe dead now or in jail. And people knew that Joe knew, and Joe let it slide. And it cost him his head coaching job, and he died unceremoniously because you're too close to the situation. I'm not saying that Joe did anything. I'm not saying that. But they were too close to the situation. Trump is too close to the situation. And he's on his back foot, Joanna. Because if you're on your back foot, you're fighting for 4 or 5 months to put your finger in the dam to keep the thing from coming out, right? And so you can't tell me, because I'm not Sherlock Holmes and you're not Watson, but you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes or Watson, okay? The window's open, clippity-clop, it's a zebra or a horse. I know it's a horse. It's Occam's razor. You don't fight like that to keep that stuff under wraps. Now people say, well, he's going to say there's ongoing investigations and they're going to redact a lot of it. But you have to remember something about the American government. It's out there. Okay, you know, there's 25 different copies in 25 different jurisdictions. And of course, the Epstein estate has it, and Mark Epstein has it. So it's getting out there now. You know, it's going to be out there, and it's not going to be fully redacted, and people are going to know. And I'm not saying he's going to get knocked out of office for this, but his power is going to be liquidated as a result of this. The guy's finished. I mean, and by the way, that's not wishful thinking on my part. That is a analysis based on the break. Let's go over the break. 400 plus members of the House of Representatives, one nut job from Louisiana. I don't know who the guy is, but I mean, it's an embarrassment to the state. He votes with Trump. I don't know what he's doing, okay? And then the Senate, it's a hundo, 100%. And by the way, Thune, again, I'm scratching my nose, Thune did this to Johnson. Johnson walked out of there pissed. He wanted 3 or 4 different amendments in the bill to provide more protection for Trump because he's a Trump lackey. But Thune hates Trump. Do you have to be a rocket scientist to know that John Thune and Trump are antipodes of each other? No. He's kowtowing to him because he's afraid of him. He doesn't want to get primaried and knocked out of his state like Liz Cheney, but he's biding his time. But last night, no amendments in the Senate bill, and 100% of the people voted with it. You know, Trump's no dummy, by the way. He knows he's playing off his back foot, and he knows he's in trouble. But I predict he'll stay. I predict he'll stay in the presidency. He'll grift another 10. He was heading to grift 20 bills. You know, he's made about 4 so far. I predict he'll make another 5 or 10 billion over the next 3 years. He'll stay in the presidency. It'll be embarrassing. It'll be horrific. It'll be graphically insulting to the rest of the world and most Americans. And then he'll leave, you know, when he leaves. He's not running for a 3rd term or anything like that. I mean, come on.
Right. Well, you're painting this grim picture, and yet, you know, there was this huge dinner for the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia this week. You had the entire tech industry coming out to pay homage. I mean, you could say that Trump is on his back foot, but it felt like he was very much on his front foot for that dinner. He still had captains of industry around the table who know that they need him.
He's sitting in a seat of power, and he's proven to people that he's willing to use the power in a politically motivated way. He's going to go after his adversaries. Jeff Bezos was against him in the first term. He's with him now. All those guys were against him. They're with him now because they don't want to be the law firm in New York that's paying $100 million of this or that. They don't want to be Harvard University. They don't want to be attacked with the cudgel of the American government. Every one of those people got the memo. Pam Bondi, in addition to being the Attorney General, happens to be the head of the Trump family law firm. And so if we got to go after somebody, or we got to use the power of the federal government indiscriminately to attack people. They just announced something last week. I don't remember what it was. You probably do, but I was like laughing. It's just another joke case, okay? Going after Comey. The judge is ridiculing him for the joke case. But they know Comey's got to spend a lot of money to do this. And so, Jeff Bezos doesn't want to spend that money. He'd rather give it to Melania for her documentary. Okay, so they'll still stay in line with him. And by the way, Richard Nixon was hosting state dinners, and he was doing all the bells and whistles stuff. And he looked quite imperious in June and July, and then he left in August of 1974. So Trump's not leaving. I'm not predicting that he's leaving. They're not going to knock him out of office. They don't have the guts to do that. But he'll be in office. If they lose the House, there'll be tons of investigations that will go nowhere, and there'll be a lot of drum beating about that, but nothing will happen. But his power is going to be down. His power will be down a notch. They're going to vote against him on a lot of things that he doesn't like. Okay, and I predict this will be more beneficial to Ukraine, and it'll be more beneficial to our allies. And by the way, we haven't gotten to the tariffs, but, I would like to come back on after the Supreme Court makes that decision, because we're going to know if we have a country or not.
Right.
Right. Because if they rule against them, then you and I will have the conversation. Well, we got a country. They ruled against them. Thing is completely bogus. Rand Paul's on it. All the constitutional lawyers are on it. He lost in the district court. He lost in the appellate court. You heard Roberts and some of the other judges like, what the hell is going on here? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, Gorsuch was really getting into it.
So I predict they're going to rule again. Now, they may split the baby, and they may say, listen, we're going to grant him emergency privileges for the first 6 months of his presidency. So all those tariffs that are paid up until now are good to go and stuck in the U.S. Treasury. But he's got to now go back to the Congress and ask the Congress to ratify the forward tariffs. That's splitting the baby. I predict that that's what they're going to do. But I don't think they're going to let him tax the American people without representation. Okay, because if they do that, Roberts is finished. Then you and I will get on the call, and I'll say, well, Roberts is finished. He's lost his standing. He pulled the pin on the last year. We figured out that the Congress is a bunch of cowards. Right, if Kennedy was alive, Jack Kennedy would be writing the book Profiles in Cowardice. It'd be a phone book. Okay, but he's not alive anymore. So we have these cowards in the Congress. So that didn't hold from a check and balance perspective. But now it's up to the court. And if the court blinks on this will be a big sign that we're in a lot of trouble in the country in terms of what the founders wanted for the country, in terms of principled men and women standing up to nut jobs. And so that's where we are right now.
Okay, so if you're in the cabinet and you're watching this play out and you understand that, A, everybody hates Trump around him, and this is the beginning of the end, as you proclaim, how are you trying to build your own power base? You've spent a lot of time with politics. You've seen it up close, as you said. Yeah, well, you've spent a lot of time watching it. How do you think this is playing out with JD Vance and Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth? I mean, they're all circling for the job.
I would have said 8 months ago, Pete Hegseth, good-looking kid. He's articulate. He's got a good television presence. He would have a shot at the presidency. Now, after watching his intellectually vacuous behavior over the last 9 months and the deer in the headlights insecurity that he represents, he's got no shot, okay, and he's going to get run over. He's not up for the job, okay? Rubio and Vance are cunning, ruthless politicians, but they're too close to Trump. So they're going to go, you remember the scene in Fargo where we put the guy in a wood chipper and they were just chunking him down? Those two guys are going in a wood chipper because that's what Trump does. He is a tragic Shakespearean figure. He hates himself, but what he hates more is the idea that a younger person could take his seat of power. We read this in Euripides, we read this in Aeschylus, and we're reading it in Shakespeare.
I was going to say it's almost every Shakespeare play.
Yeah. So this is he's gonna chop them up. Got to do it because he won't be himself if he doesn't. And they're too close to Trump. And by the way, Vance is more talented than Rubio because Vance is smarter than Rubio, but Vance got too close to Trump. Now, Vance could, if something, God forbid, happened to Trump, and I certainly don't wish that, I want him to live out his full term because he got democratically elected, and so he deserves to live out his full term, and I don't want anything to happen to him. But if something did happen to him, that would be Vance's path into the presidency, but he won't be Trump. He'll go tech oligarch on everybody, and it'll be a totally different thing. It'll be like T-bro, tech oligarch as opposed to MAGA, right? And Rubio can't get there because he's literally like a weather vane. It's like he's literally got a propeller spinning on the top of his head, and the American people really don't like that. Well, at least with Trump, you have a congenital liar, and you got a guy that's a one-message candidate, and his message was the border. His message was immigration, and the people were very fed up, and Biden wouldn't listen. He reversed all of his executive orders, and he got smoked on immigration. And by the way, the same thing in New York. Mondani is like Trump. He had one message, that was affordability. He didn't care about anything else. Well, you're an anti-Semite. Let's talk about affordability. Well, you said this. Well, let's talk about affordability. You're going to legalize this or that. No, let's talk about affordability. And by the way, let's just go over his success. He had 50% plus voter turnout, 50% plus, and he beat Curtis Lewa and Andrew Cuomo combined. So these are very talented politicians. Trump is a talented politician, but he's done. You're not going to be able to serve another term. They're not going to let him do it.
Do you think that JD Vance leaves the MAGA base behind him?
Well, he'll fake MAGA. Remember, he got Elon Musk to stand down from America's party. Remember, we were going to start a new party?
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you about that. You think he stood down from it, has he?
Yeah, so he went to Musk and said, let's cool out. You and Thiel helped me get the job. Let's cool out. I'm going to be the guy. Don't you want me to be the guy? I'll be your oligarch. The goal is to help you and Thiel and these other guys be worth $1 trillion, right? Because, remember, some people like money and other people like significance, right? You got to understand what the motivations are. Vance has got a very dysfunctional background. Read his book. A lot of these nuts that have dysfunctional backgrounds, they want to launder themselves and their family through political acclamation. You're like, well, I came from a destructive, dysfunctional background, but I'll be president of the United States. It'll make me feel better about myself. Richard Nixon, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and now you got JD Vance, and weirdly Trump in a weird way, because his father didn't really like him, so he's out to prove something.